Okay, so this is another video. Yeah, I just dropped a video of just a random perk. Everybody around you are supposed to make you subscribe to this. The reality is, these people know. They know that you're being forced to think in these disgusting ways. And you hear this person who sounds menacing, and she wants me to be scared of her. If anything, when I hear her, especially being a woman who wants you to be accepting of this manipulation, it's just okay. I just look forward to seeing this person, because when she sees me, I think she's gonna understand that this is not free. Now, me, I'm gonna have nothing to do with that. She's not even responsible for me being in this program, to be honest. She's trash. She even sounds sickly. When I hear her talk, she doesn't sound healthy, and she used that sickly sound to sound menacing. And I've heard her like at 3 in the morning. She said that. I'm like, oh my gosh, you need a break. But the funny part is, like, she says also the foulest things to people, not to me at least. And she was trying to make me subscribe to these things, right? She finds anything to try to make me feel guilty. I'm like, I don't. She was saying something. Oh, you're number one. And what she was trying to refer to is when this thing started, right? You see everybody in the neighborhood going after you, doing this, and they were like, really. First of all, they were doing this pedophilia type of torture, disgusting, right? But they were trying to make me think of me as a kid, and they're like, no, it's like it's you when you were a kid. You are. It's like, first, like, what? I was a kid and whatever, and they're like, no, but like, I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. Even if, like, it doesn't make sense. There's so many people around. It's like I'm like number one or something, and thinking about what I did as a kid, and realizing like you make it sound like I'm the worst person, when I was a kid. And I'm like, let me see the real world, right? Because they make me think that I'm this monster, I'm this pedophile and whatever, and talk about me as a child. And I was like, what? Doesn't even make sense. So, as they say, number one, I got a glimpse of the real world. My goodness. What is happening in those neighborhoods? And I made a video about degradations. What was happening in the neighborhood? Oh my gosh. Just a block away, there was a man who raped a 7-year-old. Then another block, there's somebody who raped a 4-year-old. And I was like, what? It just kind of, because this is not a world I'm familiar with. I don't ever look up this, child molesters and things like that around. I don't look at that. That's not in a world I'm involved in. So I don't look at that. And so I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Child rapists all through the neighborhood, one block, and all along they're trying to be like, what? And now I'm like looking at it, it's like, you talk about me as a kid. And mind you, I was never subscribing to it. I was already writing letters to like newspapers saying like my mind hasn't been right since then. And they're like, oh yeah, number one, huh? Because I was saying like, why is so many people are talking about? I tried to do something to me or watching me or whatever as if like I'm number. When in reality I was like, I was a kid. You understand? While they were doing these things, finding out there's a bunch of pedos around here. Now move to this neighborhood. It's another level. Because at that point I was like, okay, I'm gonna start wherever I move to. I'm gonna start looking at the list of pedophiles in the area. There's long freaking lists. We're talking about blocks away. People who've raped 4-year-old children and everything else. As these people were doing this nasty manipulation and still doing it. So now I'm like, oh yeah, I'm number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 100, all of them. To make the point that I know that you guys are the pedos. Matter of fact, that was before I found out that the agencies that contract this trash are actually filled with pedos. So these people truly are As they were trying to make me subscribe to this peripheral type of torture, as they were talking about me as a kid, right? Now, on top of knowing that they do this peripheral type of torture, on top of knowing they torture children, I learned that they do this. I learned that agencies from DOD, DARPA are filled with pedos. So this is disgusting. So now I'm like, please pass by me, watch me. Now I'll be like, I'm number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all of them. You get it? What I'm trying to say is, the humiliation that you have to go through now is going to be embarrassing. She says this thing from afar because she knows she's not going to be seen by me. At least when she's going to be seen, I'm not going to be. But if you look at me and you're like, oh, yeah, I'm number 1, Kabisa. I'm 1, 2, 3. To say this, you're delusional to think I'll ever, like, with all the information I have now, with knowing that you guys were torturing children too, when you would try to make me subscribe to these things. Never. Well, my stupid butt was here like thinking about, well, what's going on? It's like I'm number 1. Like when I'm looking at what I did as a kid. Finding out, oh my gosh, in the real world, there's actually pedophiles. This man over there raped a 4-year-old girl. And I'm thinking about me as a kid. And these people, something doesn't add up. Because they all like, oh yeah, for our kids. And at one point it was like, oh, you're like a neighborhood pedophile. I'm like, what? Guess who is right next to me? A man who raped a 4-year-old child. They have a bunch of pedos in this neighborhood. You know, somebody was trying to block it out, right? Because I'm going to say something. They said, oh, hang you. I'd rather get hung by pedos than do this delusional shit. These people will call me their neighborhood pedophile. They have a man next door who raped a 4-year-old child. Another one that raped a 7-year-old, not even a block, like you go and you turn. Man raped a 4-year-old child. These people, and you realize, what the? Well, in the midst of time, they were like calling you all these things. She's like, what? I said, no. But I was a kid. I said, no, you're a 14-year-old now. It's you when you were 14. It's you when you were a kid. What? Somebody, they were like throwing trash, you know the trash people? I was looking at them, and he just yelled, it's you when you're 14. While they had somebody who raped a 4-year-old child living next door here. And me, I'm like, oh, and me, I was saying, like it's crazy. You talk about me as a kid, but it's like, I'm like number 1 or something? Like, what? Like, I'm like the worst. Talk about, like, it doesn't even make sense. Well, everybody is doing this. Like, the program, the whole ecosystem is there to torment you, to manipulate you, to do these things. And I'm like, when I was a kid, I did this stupid thing. And I have these whole people, like, I have these different agencies that back up. Like, what the when in reality, I was just being a target individual. I am a target individual. And the reason why they do these things is because I'm a target individual. The things I was experiencing is what they were manipulating, forcing me to experience. I was experiencing the peripheral type of torture. Not me when I was a kid. Not me when I was a child. But it doesn't even make sense. It didn't make sense. I was writing letters to newspapers saying, since that day I haven't been myself. I even wrote I'm going to say this. I was once very weak, but I'll never get to that point. I wrote a suicide letter in October, a few days after my birthday. The same year of this started, 2019. I wrote a suicide letter saying I'd rather lose my life than become something I'm not. Because while I was seeing, like, they're going to change me into something else. That was in October. 3 months after this started. I said, I'd rather lose my life than change. And I still have this letter to bring back to reality. 3 months. I was like, I'd rather kill myself than become what they want me to be. You understand? So obviously I knew they were doing something to change me into something else. I knew. I was like, I'd rather die than having to live they're changing me. I can feel like, what, this simulation? No. And then they're like, it's you. It's like, even, what? But that doesn't even make sense. It's me. But why is there so much, like, what's going on here? Am I number one or something? And then somebody, number one, how you're number one? I was like, what? It's like, no, I'm just saying. You, first of all, I know it's not me, but you're trying to say that it's me, and like, why is it so much, like, what's going on? Finding out that there's a bunch of pedos living in the area. I mean, very close to where I was living. Like, they could have been participating in my targeting. They could have been involved in, like, yelling outside. So at that point, every time I would go somewhere, I'll look for the list of pedophiles that live in the area. So when these people try to say, we're pedophiles, like, our community, I'll be like, your community, look at that. This place, oh my gosh, it's disgusting. So yeah, number one, Kabiso. I am, this true. I subscribe. I'll never subscribe to these things. Never. I'll never subscribe to it. I wrote a letter, a suicide letter, saying I'd rather die. 3 months when it started, then live the way they live. And sorry, I'd rather die than living as somebody else or become something else. I'll never subscribe to these things. I'll never. And as they were trying to make me, no, it's you when you're 14 years old. I'm like, what? It doesn't make sense. And I'm looking up all the pedos. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. So no, I'll never subscribe. And yes, you guys do the pedophilia type of torture. And it's funny, somebody yell, you might be. Like, yeah, I might be, Kabisa. It's me. You're not doing the pedophilia type of torture. That's why I wrote a letter. You guys don't do the pedophilia type of tormenting. I might be. No, I'll never subscribe. Yes, you do the pedophilia type of torture. Yes, you guys are the pedos. Yes, you torture children. Yes, you've been doing this for a long time. Yes, you're going to make me dream about some nasty pedophilia things. That's what you guys do. Yes, you try to manipulate people into something else. Yes, I almost killed myself thinking that I was going to turn into something else. No, I will not because of that, at least. Because I know that you did that to so many others, including women. So yes, I know who's number one, number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You guys are a bunch of pedos. And yes, when I found out what was going on in the neighborhood, because I was like, well, that's crazy. That doesn't even make sense. So I'm like, everybody's like, I'm number one. Like, no. And I hear somebody's like, you're the kind of pedo we like. Yeah, okay. The kind of pedo who's not a pedo that you're supposed to turn into a pedo. Never. Trash. Death comes to all of us. I'd rather die slow than live the way they live. Working for pedophiles while trying to turn people to pedos.